Last week's race at Daytona began clean as both classes navigated turn 1 without any major incidents. However, that didn't last long. Later in the race, William Randleman attempted to pass David Almeida into the Western Horseshoe, resulting in the two of them coming together. Arthur Chan's bad luck has followed him all the way into Season 3. Mustang failed to make room into the bus stop. Hang Hotel ran into similar problems when Darren Jump caught him by surprise on the outside of turn 1, sending him into the wall. Jason Poisson was tipped into a spin by Fred Masters. Lady Gomez threw the short stall and plowed into Poisson. Richard Losmer lost control in the tricky braking zone and sent Wes Eric into a spin cycle. Toward the end of the race, Dan Rash went in too deep and somehow managed to save the car in a huge four-wheel trip. And of course, there was the incredible finish in which James Stevenson tapped Carl Williamson, who lost control and slammed into Chris Moran across the line for one of the closest finishes in Conti Endurance history. Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series, broadcast live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is the wonderful Kevin Browne. Behind the scenes directing all the cameras is Giancarlo Lenzi. Our co-commentator Eric Nellis couldn't be here this week, but he will be back at the next race. Glad to have you here, guys.
Hey Joe, glad to be here and looking forward to this race. If the race at Daytona is any indication, we're in for a real cracker.
I agree. Today's race is held on the rolling hills of Mosport International Raceway. The two classes will navigate this 10-turn, 2.4-mile circuit for 90 long minutes. Its challengingly fast, sweeping corners are notoriously hard for passing, and places such as the treacherous Turn 2 and the tight, slow Moss Corner are sure to catch a few drivers out before the day is done. 2 weeks ago at Daytona saw both classes come down to the wire, even after 2.4 hours of racing. Brian Strodbeck came home to winner in GS class after an intense final minutes in which the lead changed hand multiple times. However, Driftin' Dan Rash, who came home 6th after an off-track, is likely to be looking to make up for his late race mistake, which may have cost him the victory. Likewise, contenders such as Cannonball Clayson and JD Baumgartner are expected to be hot on Strodbeck's heels once again. In ST class, a 3-wide finish gave us one of the most exciting finishes in Conti Endurance history. Chris Moran leads James Stevenson in the championship, with Carl Williamson close behind. The trio are facing much more single-file racing here in the Great White North. The question is whether Moran can continue his sudden surge in form to retain his championship lead. Well, Kevin, I have to agree with your initial statement that this is going to be a very interesting race. We've seen in practice a number of people have already been tangling. But looking at the championship tables, currently, as we said, we're seeing Chris Moran leading.
Yeah, that win for Chris really helped him out. He's got a nice 8-point lead over the rest of the ST field. But Chris so far is a no-show at this race, and we're wondering if he's going to be able to make the grid and defend his race win.
Yeah, and I'd say that's unusual, but we might have just missed an announcement by him that he isn't able to make it. You know, meanwhile, in the GS class, we do have JD Baumgartner leading the points, although he is, Brian Strodbeck and JD Baumgartner are actually tied in the lead for points, both at 45 points right now. Russell Clayson is currently in 3rd, and Dan Rash is 4th with 40 points. We've got Andre Trago in 5th with 38 points. German Afanador coming up 6th with 36. Chris Duffy is only 1 point behind in 7th with 35 points. Another 1 point back is Arthur Hermont in 8th. Jason Fryer is 9th, and Fred Masters is 10th. We also wanted to make sure and mention that it's a good thing we've also got Russell Clayson, Mr. Cannonball himself here. He's had a bit of a rough week, it sounds like. He was physically attacked, from what we understand, on the highway, and is actually practicing for a real-life race. So he's been a bit busy, it sounds like, Kevin.
Yeah, it sounds like a heck of a week, and Russell, we're glad you're feeling okay and we're able to make this race, and hope you're feeling better real soon, man. That's a tough week for you.
Very much so. Well, we're currently about 10 minutes into the GS class qualifying. I think we're going to hop onto Andre Trego's car here for a second. We're just going to follow Andre around the track and do that as he comes to the start-finish line here. Going to hop into his car. He's heading through turn 1, which is a very fast right-hander. You only need a slight dab on the brakes. Up into turn 2, which is a very scary blind left-hander. Then on into turn 3, down through this short stretch, which is a very early apex. Hard braking into that. Very long tracking out. You want to get on the gas as early as you can, but not too soon because it's very easy to track out into the grass. Another short straightaway which leads into the blind turn 4. On over a crest, down the hill into a very, very hard braking zone into turn 5, which is Moss Corner. Up over another blind crest, and around turn 6, which is probably the slowest corner on the track, onto the most crucial straightaway of the track. This is the long and not quite straight back straightaway. Again, you want to get on the gas as soon as you can here, or else you can be very vulnerable. If you get a good draft, you do have a passing opportunity, although it's tricky because you're heading into turn 8, which is a very fast right-hander. You come up over the hill here, and another very, very slight dab on the brakes. If you get to the outside of someone here, you could have a chance to pass into turn 9, which is another slower left-hander, and then into the final turn, which is another very slow right-hander. Getting your acceleration right onto the front straightaway, which is a very short sprint to the start-finish line. Kevin?
Yeah, this is a tough track for the Mustangs. It's going to take a lot of focus for them. It's a lot of high-speed corners with placement of the car being really critical. So they're going to wind up chewing up their front tires real fast, and tire wear is going to be a consideration very early in the race.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the standings here, and it looks like we might have actually seen Andre on his fastest lap. So we kind of lucked out here. That was a very good example. I'm looking at the top of the field, and Dan Rash is currently topping things, but I see Eric Smith, who is sort of an unknown right here. We were kind of watching him practice, and we were a bit surprised by his pace.
I'm really excited that Eric Smith has joined this series. He's the 2012 Season 1 iRacing Mustang Series champion. Hasn't raced in this series before, and really hasn't raced in the car a lot since a year ago. But he's got a lot of pace at any track, and he looks like he's showing he's got pace here, as he's currently sitting second on the leaderboard, but about a half second behind Dan's very fast pole position time.
Yeah. And looking a little further down, we've got German Afanador currently in 4th. We've got about 2 minutes left in qualifying, so this could all, of course, change. But a couple other major players that we hadn't seen in the first round. Dustin Peterson is currently 6th. He hasn't had a whole lot of practice here, but as a teammate of his, I can attest to his speed, if not to his consistency.
Yeah, and we also have our last season's champion, Steve Browne, is back after missing the previous race at Daytona ill. He's currently sitting in 9th in the middle of this pack, where there's appears to be a lot of close racing going on.
I'm curious to see if we'll see Steve pick things up and move a little higher up, or if the competition is just that fierce this season. I'm looking in our booth to see if we can find maybe a ST driver or two to jump in here. Let me see if we can drag in Mr. Richard Losper, who we're quite familiar with. Richard, can you hear us? I suppose Richard probably might have us muted. We'll see if he can get a hold of us. No. Let's drag him back into the lobby then. Looking real quick to see if we can find someone else. James Stevenson is waiting. James, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
James, real quick before you guys take to the track, this is looking like it's going to be very close between the two classes and a lot of intense racing. Are you expecting a lot of chaos out there?
Not too much inter-class chaos, but definitely it's going to be hard to keep the car on the track, and that'll be true for both classes. So I expect there will be a lot of cautions, but hopefully not too much inter-class, because long back straight for the Mustangs to pass.
Do you think the caution could possibly play into your strategy at all?
Probably not, to be honest.
All right. Well, it looks like you guys are about to take the track, so I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Well, while GS continues to finish up their hot laps because they can complete this lap even though ST is taking the track, things should be pretty solid. Dan Rash is currently on pole with a 130.9, which is pretty damn good. Eric Smith is close. Well, actually, he's not too close behind. He's almost a whole half second behind Dan Rash, interestingly. So Eric takes up the second half of the front row. Andre Trago starts the second row in third with a 131.5. German Afanador is fourth. Nicholas Bailey fifth. Dustin Peterson sixth. Jonathan Auger in seventh. Alexis Molina in eighth. Steve Browne in ninth. And Kevin, would you like to finish up the last of that class?
Yeah, so in 10th with a 32.293, Dualjan Boldrin, followed closely by Scott Bircher with a 32.361. Then Russell Clayson, 4.46, and Bry Fogel, a 32.634. J.D. Baumgartner, who finished second, I believe, in the last round, is sitting in 14th currently with a 32.646. Then followed by David Waters and Arthur Hermont, the last of the runners in the 32s, before we get to Elena Gomez with a 33 flat. Jeffrey Scharf with a 34, and John Ehlers following up with a 38.3.
I'm curious to know if JD is having just a tough time with this track, or is this a bogey track for him? Because usually we see him a lot farther up the field.
Yeah, tough to tell. Maybe he just got kind of unlucky with some traffic a little bit. That can really hold you up here and just kind of prevent you from ever getting a good run if you're unlucky. So I'm expecting that he'll be up towards the front of the race by the end.
Yeah, strategy can definitely make up for poor qualifying, and I think I'm living proof of that. So I'm looking at through our board once again, seeing if we could get some more interviews in here while we wait for the STs to start to set some times. I see we got Dusty Peterson and Andre Trago. Is there anyone in particular you think we should pull in here, Kevin?
Well, Andre had a nice qualifying run, and he's sitting third behind Eric Smith, so let's see if he's got anything good to say for us.
Andre, can you hear us?
Yeah, sure can. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good today. We rode along with you for a second there. It looks like you had a pretty good qualifying lap. You're sitting third. Are you expecting to be able to improve on that throughout the race today?
Well, I hope so. I mean, these are some pretty fast guys, but I'm happy with third. I like starting there, so we'll see how this goes. But it's some pretty tough competition. We'll see.
We heard a lot of talk over the radio of you guys debating on, proper procedure of what car needs to go where. Have you guys kind of sorted that out, got some gentlemen's agreements going, or is it each to his own?
Yeah, I think it's pretty well sorted out. I think the STs are going to pretty much hold their line on the back straight. That's where most of the passing is going to take place with those guys, and we'll just get around them. And as long as they don't move when we're coming up on them, I think it'll be pretty smooth. I do think it'll be a race of attrition, though. We'll see how many accidents and how many people wind up with a DQ.
Yeah, we've seen that can be pretty important in the championship run. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, Andre.
All right, no problem. Have a good day.
Well, Kevin, that was rather insightful.
Yeah, to hear Andre saying that he thinks it's going to be a race of attrition kind of confirms a little bit of what we were thinking, where a lot of the drivers might be a little worried that there's going to be a lot of yellows going on.
Very much so. We've got Dusty kind of waiting in the wings. Let's pull him in here and see if he can talk. Dusty, can you hear us? Dusty might not have his button configured. I think we had some problems talking to him a little bit earlier. We'll give him another couple seconds to see if he can hear us. Looks like he's still out, so we'll just plop him back in the waiting room. I don't see any more Mustang drivers, unfortunately, that are waiting to be interviewed. So let's let's talk about this track a little bit. This track is kind of interesting in that it hasn't changed a whole lot over the years. It's one of the few tracks, I believe, that has the same layout as it did when it was first built, which I want to say was in the late 50s or early 60s, Kevin?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Joe. And some of the places it kind of shows that it's been through some harsh Canadian winters. It's a bumpy track. It's not real smooth. A lot of elevation change, a lot of camber change all over the place. So it's an interesting driving track because you have to pay attention to all these little factors that you normally wouldn't.
You know, the other thing to me that says old school track is there's not a lot of runoff room in many of the corners. In fact, many of the fast corners, you're ready to meet the wall as soon as you get off, such as Moss Corner.
Yeah, Moss is unfriendly if you go a little deep, and then turn 2, that's real scary. There's a lot of runoff there, but it sure isn't enough when you make a mistake.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of drivers have their fair share of offs there. Even great drivers tend to get off into the grass and the gravel and slide their way into the tires, and that can be really embarrassing because even if you feel like you've caught it, it's just that slow plow that damages your car, which can really slow you, especially these cars, which aren't very aerodynamic. I think getting damage is going to hurt them on that long back straightaway. Well, we're about about 6.5 minutes into our ST qualifying. Carl Williamson is currently on pole, but that could still change. Arthur Chan is in second place. He had a very good race earlier today in the Blondie series. We watched him take a podium. As we said before, he tends to have some really bad luck. So we'll have to keep an eye on him, see if he can change that, see if we can continue this trend.
Yeah, kind of rooting for Arthur a little bit, to be honest. He had some bad luck last round with an encounter with a Mustang that kind of narrowed his car up a little bit. So glad to see he's got a good qualifying run going on so far, and maybe this luck will stay with him through the race.
Here's hoping. I'm looking at third place. James Stevenson is currently holding that. He was our second place finisher last week, and he's actually our season 1 champion. He was in the hunt for the win until the very last race last season. I'm sure he's looking to try and regain his crown. Alex Bow is currently in 4th. Stefan Overgaard is in 5th. And then we've got Chuck Johnson in 6th. And it looks like we've got Dusty back, so maybe we can give another try to talking to him. Dusty, can you hear us this time?
Yeah, I hear you. You got me?
Good to have you this time. Dusty, I'm looking at the standings. You qualified 6th in GS. Do you think you can make up on that through strategy, or do you think you got the pace to keep with some of these top contenders?
I can't say I'm too confident with strategy on this race. I didn't have a lot of time to practice and make calculations this time, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it there. I'm hoping it's a bit of a rough track. I'm hoping I can just keep it clean and make up some spots, just due to attrition on this one.
Well, this is your first race this season, although you were experienced last round. Do you think you can finish a little higher in the standings? Do you have the time to make it to more races this year?
That we'll have to see. I'm really hoping that I can. My schedule's pretty open for the first half of this year, but life is it goes up and down, so we'll see. I'm really hoping to.
Yeah, I definitely want to see you represent Ohio very well. I'm rooting for you to take our team to the top there. In practice, we saw a few people get into each other. Are you expecting traffic to hold you up a lot, or do you think everyone's going to play nice today?
Yeah, I'm expecting it to be a little bit weird. I didn't have too much troubles getting into other people during practice, but I definitely had some troubles just staying on the track on my own. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Most of the time, people play pretty nice, but it is a tricky track, so it's going to get a little complicated, I bet.
Well, call it for us now. What lap do you think first yellow is going to come?
Oh, geez. You want the optimist or the pessimist? Let's say 5.
Lap 5. We'll come back to you later and see if your prediction came true.
I hope I'm wrong.
We all do.
Yeah, we're hoping we don't have a repeat of 2 weeks ago and have plenty of green flag racing. Thanks for talking to us, Dusty.
All right, no problem. Enjoy the race.
Will do. Well, Kevin, we're about, let's see, we're about 10 minutes in now to our ST qualifying. So it's starting to wind down. Things are probably settling into position. We still see Carl Williamson up at the top and still have Arthur Chan in second. This must be a good track for Arthur.
Yeah, Arthur looks like he's got the pace early on and has kind of got some good speed there. Carl Williamson, though, you know, he's sitting almost a third of a second in front of Arthur on the leaderboard. So Carl may really has something figured out here. So let's see how he does.
Yeah, I'm just looking a little bit farther down the line. We might take a short break if nothing is really changing a whole lot here. Seeing if we can notice any big movers or any surprises. Richard Losper is currently 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He is 8th position, which is pretty good for him. Last season he tended to be, I believe, around 9th, 10th, 11th, which is around where I was. So it's good to see him a little higher up this season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we love Richard here, and you know, hoping that he can have a good race. He's kind of in a bunch of cars here that are all separated by only about a tenth of a second or so. And so with the long back straight, big draft that the ST cars will be having, there's going to be a lot of strategy these guys will be playing, trying to pass each other and not lose the back.
Absolutely. And that's probably going to play a big part today. I'm hearing that we're going to go to break real quick here. I think we've got the music playing, so we'll be back very soon, guys. We'll hope to see you before the green flag falls. We'll update you on the final standings and qualifying. Welcome back to the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. Qualifying is just wrapping up here at Mosport for the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. ST class is just finishing their qualifying, and we're looking at a very interesting race here. We're about to go down the field as the hot laps get put in and everything gets solidified. Kevin, from what it sounds like, everyone's expecting at least a few cautions today.
Right. And that's going to play a big part in their strategy about how they approach each car that's around them, and how they feel about being aggressive in some of these really tight, fast corners.
Yeah, and I honestly think that it will have an effect on strategy today, especially if we see a lot of them start to play out. I think guys are going to start to gamble, because that could put you ahead of the field, or one or two positions that could be very important in the championship down the line. Well, things seem to have pretty much wrapped up, so I'm going to just start down the field here. Arthur Chan has taken the pole, which I think surprised a couple of us in the booth here. He had been up there in qualifying for most of the 15 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, I spoke too soon. Carl has just pipped him at the very end. I'm sorry, Arthur, I jinxed you. I shouldn't have said anything. But Carl Williamson takes pole with a 1:35.621. I'm sorry, my timing has gone a little wonky there. There we go. Again, 1:35.621 for Carl Williamson. I've got the timing back now. Arthur Chan is second on the first row with a 1:35.663. James Stevenson is behind them in row 2 with a 1:35.8. Then we've got Elliot Huffman in 4th, Alex Balogh in 5th, Dexter Castro in 6th, Stefan Overgaard in 7th, Antti Tuominen in 8th, and Chuck Johnson in 9th. Kevin?
We follow that up with Richard Losber in 10th and William Randleman, and then Patrick Gallagher and Ed Verras, followed by Philip Moore, Stefan Morien, Matthew Reinl, David Wamond, Tom Eklund, Christopher Thompson, Tim Brokaw, Stephen Asbury, and rounding out the field is going to be Hiro Kanaya.
Pretty full field today. In fact, is that everyone in the field? I see we've got 2 cars in the Mustangs that didn't qualify, so we have 41 vehicles, so it's not a completely full field. But still, 41 cars is quite a few, especially around what isn't a terribly long circuit. It's only 2.4 miles. Now, I think one thing worth noting is that with this being 2 classes, it is a split start, Kevin.
Right, so that's going to play a huge part, because we had a couple of Mustangs who just weren't able to get in a real hot lap in their qualifying, and that's going to push them in front of the ST cars, which means that they're going to get a little mixed up in the first couple of laps, and how the leaders of the ST cars want to mix up with the Mustangs is going to play a big part into the overall strategy of this race.
When I was driving in this series, there were times that I came across cars from the faster class, because I was an ST, and it can get very, very frustrating. It really tests your patience when you're in that slower car, and you know that guy should be going faster than you.
Yeah, absolutely. And at Mosport, these corners are so technical and difficult that after the tires run off a little bit in the first couple of laps for the Mustangs, they're going to be even slower in the corners, and probably really infuriating the ST drivers at the front.
I can definitely see that happening. Well, we're going to go through once again for the GS class since we're taking off. Dan Rash is in 1st, Eric Smith is in 2nd, Andre Trego is in 3rd, German Afanador is in 4th, Nicholas Bailey is in 5th, Dustin Peterson is in 6th, Jonathan Auger is in 7th, Alexis Molina is in 8th, Steve Browne is in 9th, Duljan Boldrin is in 10th, and Scott Bircher is at 11th. Kevin, why don't you round out the field?
Our medical mystery man, Russell Clayson, in 12th, followed by Jason Breifogel. Then J.D. Baumgartner and David Waters, Arthur Hermont, Elena Gomez, and Jeffrey Sharp. And the last Mustang runner is John Ehlers.
That makes up for 19 drivers in our Mustang class, which is a pretty full field, which should make for 21 drivers, if my math is correct, for our 21 or 22 drivers for the ST class. So it is a full house today. They're winding their way around as the pace car leads them through the hills of the Great White Canadian North.
Yeah, and I do want to apologize. It appears that Josh Kramer, who did not put in a lap in qualifying, has actually taken the grid, so he's going to start behind John Ehlers.
Interesting. So we in fact have 42 cars today. Getting our numbers right, as you can tell, this is not always easy on the fly. They're heading up the back straight now. In fact, it looks like the GS cars are getting close to taking the green flag here. I'm heading up towards the front of the pack to watch and see what's going to go down. Pace car is leading them into turn 8 right now. Kevin's going to take us off at the green flag with the GS class.
Okay, so we are in turn 9, and the pace car should be pulling off any second now. And the pace car is off, so Dan Rash is in control of the field, and he's going to turn around turn 10. And they are off. They've seen the green flag, and they're going. Dan Rash is there. Eric Smith holding to station to the outside. Andre Trego's taking a peek on the inside, and it looks like everybody's going to be clean through turn 1.
In the meantime, the ST class is getting ready to take the green flag as they come around the final corner. Carl Williamson is taking them around the inside, and they get the green, and off they go.
And Andre Trego is off in turn 2. We have another spinner in turn 2. GS has not had a good start.
ST, in the meantime, there's a bit of a traffic jam heading into 1, but Carl Williamson is all by his lonesome as he starts to pull away. That is a big traffic jam, but everyone's staying pretty clean so far as they head into the treacherous turn 2. We're seeing them hop around that corner, over that crest, down through into turn 3, and I see a GS car actually going slow as they start to catch him already.
And Eric Smith in second place spins, and Moss checks out the field. Russell Clayson is in, no, that's German Afanador, excuse me, is now in second place, but a long ways behind Dan Rash, who has made his escape already on lap 1.
All right, we're going to check out what happened to Eric Smith here. See if I can pull him up.
Yeah, it looks like he may have just tried to carry a little too much speed into the corner and got loose on those cold tires, and around she went. Nice save, though, to keep the car from going into the inside wall.
That's unfortunate for such a promising new driver to the series. I can't imagine that it will delay him too much because he didn't fall too far back. Hopefully he can make up the time that he lost.
I hope so. It has, however, helped Dan Rash pull out a 3.5-second lead on the first lap. So Dan's probably going to dial it back a little bit and just start waiting for the cautions and keep those front tires under him, I'm guessing.
Yeah, in fact, the closest race currently as we go down the line is, at least up towards the top of the field, is Jonathan Auger, who's got Alexis Molina from the Canary Islands, who's not too far behind him, maybe a couple car lengths. They're heading down into Moss Corner, which is that hard braking zone.
Right, and everybody's probably for the first part of the race just going to try and keep it on the track in the first part of Moss, because you've got that slow corner leading out, and every RPM that you can carry, as we've got another spinner in Moss on lap 2. And I'm not sure who that was.
It's Elena Gomez.
Elena Gomez, unfortunately. She's having a rough race 2 rounds in a row now.
It's still early days. We're watching the replay, and it looks like she simply got into it a little too hard and brought it around, unfortunately. Moss Corner will definitely bite you. I don't think this is the last we'll see of those incidents at that corner. In fact, it looks like we've got the caution flag out. I didn't catch exactly what the caution was for. Kevin, did you catch that?
No, I didn't. I'm trying to find it myself.
Well, while we try and track that down, Dan Rash is continuing to lead And German Afanador is the second place runner. Jonathan Auger is finishing up the podium in third. Alexis Molina in fourth. And Duljan Boldrin in fifth in the GS class. ST class, we're seeing Cara Williamson currently in the lead. I'm trying to find his car. I've lost telemetry on him, unfortunately. There we go. I've got him back now. Arthur Chan is in second, and James Stevenson is in third in ST class. Elliot Huffman is in fourth. I don't think we saw a whole lot of him last race, did we, Kevin?
No, we didn't. He's doing having a nice run so far, though, hanging with the top three.
He qualified in fourth, so he has neither gained nor lost, but it's always good to be able to retain your position at the start. I'm afraid to admit that that is one of my weaknesses, so it's definitely an art that you have to master.
And it's a nice art if you've got that skill in your back pocket to be able to pick off cars in the first couple of laps. It really helps you give you a psychological advantage over the other cars around you.
Well, the cars are starting to catch the pace car, I believe, as they kind of check up. I'm looking up at the top of the field for Dan Rash here, and yes, he is in fact with the pace car as they come around past the pit entrance they're just finishing up lap 3, so it's very early days in this race.
And it looks like that yellow may have been between Dustin Peterson and Andre Trago. They're both sitting in pit lane right now with what appear to be heavily damaged cars.
I'm gonna hop back real quick and see if I can find out what happened to poor Dusty. Fortunately, this is kind of par for the course. He has a problem staying out of trouble from time to time. He's an excellent, very fast driver, but he can be a bit scatterbrained and can lose focus.
Oh wow! Dustin had a rollover at the exit of turn 9 on the end of the first lap. Got in just too hot, drove straight in the tire wall, and that's probably the end of his race.
It's going to take a lot of repairs, so no matter what, it's going to put him very far down the field. I just watched the replay, and wow, yeah, he hit that tire barrier just right. I've actually done that before myself, too. It's not too difficult to do, and I can definitely understand why we got a caution for that. A car in its lid is going to merit a yellow flag.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Dustin. He was having a good start, and I think he thought he could have a good run today, and unfortunately didn't last long for him.
I'm looking at the leaders here, and oh, I'm sorry, I was still on replay. I thought Dan Rash was catching up to the pace car for some reason, and I was just looking at the wrong time. Well, as they head up the backstretch here, I'm looking at how things are playing out as far as strategy goes. This is definitely way too early for anybody to make a pit stop. Where are we looking at pit stops probably taking place as far as GS goes?
Well, the easy answer is as soon as they can make it to the end of the race. You know, they're probably going to start trying to pit about the 20 or 30 minute mark is my guess. They can go about, I think, 53 minutes on a full tank on green flag, but if the start of this race has any indication, we might not be seeing a lot of green flag.
Green flag, green flag.
It sounds like Dusty might be available to speak, but actually we're going to green, so I take that back. We'll talk to Dusty at next caution. Dan Rash takes the field away from the start-finish line into turn 1. Jordan Fanador keeps him within check. Nice and close on the back of that car. Kevin?
Nice orderly run through turn 1. Let's see if these guys can keep it up through the daunting turn 2. Everybody seems to be staying in line.
Definitely. We're going to hop back to Carl Williamson, the leader in the ST class. He is on the back, the tail end of the GS cars. So he's going to have to possibly fight with some traffic, and we see a car ahead of him who's gone off. Looks like, trying to check, and that looks like Cannonball. Cannonball Clayson is off. Unfortunate. He's usually an incredibly fast driver. lack of practice might be biting him. Carl Williamson is closing up on the back of him, see if he tries to get tangled up in this mess. Probably won't have to as they get to the back stretch here. The cars are going to accelerate away. Around Moss Corner they go. Arthur Chan is getting very close. We got another car off. That's Jeffrey Sharp. He's going to go to the back of all these MX-5s, and that's going to cause quite a tangle. Meanwhile, though, back up at the front, we've got James Stevenson, who's made a move on Arthur Chan. In fact, he's making a move on Carl Williamson. He's going to look for the lead. He's got the inside, so he's got track position coming into this corner, though he's going to have to go very fast. Arthur Chan is using a toe off of Stevenson. Very, very slight braking into this turn. Arthur is not quite far enough up the inside. They go side by side. There's a little bobble from Carl. He got psyched out a little bit there, but he caught it. Arthur's moved up, he's still in second, but James Stevenson has gotten 2 positions in one turn as a Mustang is into the barriers on the front stretch.
Yeah, we're seeing a little bit of craziness here, and drivers need to kind of settle down, calm down, and make sure they hit their marks and go through a clean lap. Otherwise, this is not going to be a pretty race.
Yeah, hopefully that Mustang that got into the wall doesn't cause another caution. Knocking on wood right now. Arthur, in the meantime, is taking a look at James Stevenson. He is making a race of this early on. They're racing already like it's the last lap. This is for the lead, ladies and gentlemen. Arthur is putting some serious pressure on James Stevenson.
Yeah, well, kind of, not only do they get a bonus point for leading a lap in the Continental Endurance Series, but I think that they are feeling that this is going to be a caution-filled race, and whoever's at front is going to have all the advantage. So it looks like everybody's going to start being aggressive, maybe trying to get any position they can get.
Strategically, I think that is an incredibly valid point. And I think you're right. I think we're going to see a lot of guys, if more cautions come out, that be a little more aggressive, which unfortunately is going to breed more cautions. We've got Jeffrey Sharp closing up on the leaders here. He is the tail end of the Mustangs currently, I believe. But he's playing patient. He's waiting behind Arthur and James as they head around turn 8. Up into turn 9 here. They're going to complete lap 6.
I'm sure Arthur and James are very appreciative of this, but Carl Williamson is stuck behind this Mustang, and no doubt he's fuming slightly at this pace right now.
I'm watching, and he is being held up a little bit on the front straightaway. He had to brake a little bit, and that's going to allow Elliot Huffman to get right on the bumper of Carl. Carl has gone from pole to being in third and having himself challenged, so he's not had the great start that he wanted.
Well, it is a long race, so hopefully these guys can keep their heads clear and run a clean race. I'm hoping for a clean race. I'm sure it will happen for us.
Once again, knocking on that wood, Dexter Castro, in the meantime, and Jeffrey Sharp goes off once again. Dexter Castro is currently in 5th, so he's doing pretty well up there. He qualified in what looks like 6th place, so he's made up a position somewhere along the line. But he's making good. In fact, he's closing up on Elliot Huffman under braking. He's very good under braking. And he's going to have a really good tow coming down this back straightaway, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just taking a quick peek at the front of the GS field where Dan Rash has got almost a 2.5 second lead over second place. And there's not really a whole lot of action going on here. The front of the GS field, the guys are staying clean and driving in line, just kind of, I think, waiting to see what happens in front of them.
I'm looking down. It looks like Scott Bersher has J.D. Baumgartner behind him, and that is for 6th and 7th position. That's our closest battle that we can see up towards the front. Oh, we've got a spinner in front of them. Both of them managed to avoid, but Scott Bersher goes very sideways, manages to catch it, loses the position to JD, and Eric also goes off in front of them. Chaos just erupts at the top of the GS field. Incredible driving from Scott there, Kevin.
Yeah, that was our 3rd place. Jonathan Auger just got laid off of the exit of turn 1 and spun around, and that caused Derek Smith to have to take an avoidance maneuver, and he wound up going deep into off the track on turn 2. And Scott Bersher and J.D. Baumgartner just barely got around. That was fantastic driving on their part.
Yeah, definitely not something you want towards the start of a race because that can rattle you. You got to be able to keep your focus and settle down, get your rhythm in early on. And I'd have to say that this is probably a rhythm track. It's something where you kind of get into that groove and get going and then not worry about anything else.
And as soon as you say that, we have another yellow flag out.
We're going to go to break, but we'll come back soon after a lap or two around caution and see if we can talk to Dusty, and we'll talk to you guys in a little bit. Welcome back to the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series on the Global Sim Racing channel. We're currently under caution, and it's only lap 9. This is our second caution of the day. We've got Dusty Peterson here in the booth with us. Welcome, Dusty.
Hey, how's it going?
You were out kind of early. You had, it seems, a meeting with the tires. Tell us what happened.
That was frustrating. This is not where I was hoping to be right now. I mentioned earlier I wasn't feeling, to you guys before the race, that I wasn't feeling too great with this track, but at the end of practice and qualifying, I really kind of clicked. I was feeling really solid and smooth. The race was going great early on, and then all 3 of my monitors blacked out for about 2 solid seconds, just long enough for me to go right off the track.
Oh, so it was a hardware problem.
Yeah, totally. I was feeling good too. Very frustrating.
That's really unfortunate. For the viewers that don't understand what exactly Dusty's talking about, with this being sim racing, we do have problems besides just cars failing on us. Our computers can go on the fritz, we can get stuttering, monitors can go out, as Dusty just had. So it's essentially the equivalent of real-life racing when you have an electronic failure or just, a $2 part goes on the car. Well, it turns out we've got extended caution, and thank you for joining us there, Dusty.
Hey, no problem.
We're I'm not sure if we're going to be seeing some wave rounds. We might be. It looks like they might be doing some wave rounds here. I'm trying to listen to the race control currently. Well, Kevin, as they sort that out, I'm looking at the fields. It looks like Dan Rash continues to lead us. German Afanador is in second, and Alexis Molina is in third. J.D. Baumgartner is in fourth, and Scott Bersher has moved his way into fifth in the GS class. What does it look like in the ST cars?
Well, we still have James Stevenson up front leading Arthur Chan, who's followed by Carl Williamson and then Elliot Huffman. So we haven't seen any change there. And then William Randleman and Stefan Overgaard are sitting hot on the tails of the lead group, and I'm sure want to be moving right up as soon as they can.
But I'm getting a word in my ear that William Randleman is our man on the move. He's currently gained 6 positions, so he's looking like he's sitting pretty early on here. We'll see if he can hold on to that, or if he just inherited it because of cautions. But they're getting wave arounds, so cars will be coming around. As we said, it's an extended caution. Kevin, tell us a little bit about how the wave arounds work in this series.
Well, if you're not on the lead lap and you're not going to pit, they allow the ST cars to get a free wave around so that they can catch up and to the back of the field and maybe get a lap back, and more importantly, allow the cars who are next to each other on the race order actually have a chance at racing each other without a lapper in the midst of them.
That's correct. And I believe the GS also get that wave around as well, so it's not simply limited to the ST class. And that can also come into play, I think, strategy-wise, because I've seen some cars use that to their advantage before. Oh, and I'm watching top of the field here. Richard Losber is having to weave his way through a few cars that aren't following the rules here. Normally, you're supposed to stay to one side to allow the wave arounds by, and Richard had to move his way through 2 cars. But yeah, if you're a lap down and you think you can, get another caution to get that caution pit stop, I've seen people use it to their advantage to get that lap back and get back in the game, even with their pit stops.
Right, so it can be, I think the NASCAR guys call it a lucky dog rule, and it can really help you out and get lucky and get back to your race and maybe pick up a couple of positions that you might not have been able to get before.
I'm pretty sure the lights should turn out this time by. We'll have to wait and see. But since most of the wave rounds have been sent on by, I think this should be the last lap under caution next time by the line. We're currently on lap 11, and we are about, I believe, 28 to 29 minutes into the race so far. Correct me if I'm sorry, we're probably about 23 or 24 minutes into the race. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Our director might be able to tell us how far in we are. "21 minutes in." I was almost there. My timer is a bit off. I apologize if I give misinformation on that. I'll make a note that it is currently 4 minutes off from my timer, so hopefully I can get that right. Well, the pace car is heading by. Let's see. I'm going to jump to him and see if I can figure out if the lights are off. In fact, the lights do turn off, so this will be the last lap under caution, Kevin.
Yeah, let's hope we can get a little more green flag action this time. We did see Dan Rashkind feint in towards pit lane, but nobody took the bait to go into pit lane and change tires. So these guys are probably going to stay out quite a bit longer, is my guess.
Yeah, it's probably still a little early days for that. You mentioned the tires, and I remember, I think it was Dan Rash that we heard from. I might be wrong on that. That was saying that the tires on the GS car actually take a little bit longer than the optimal amount of fuel that they want to grab. So we could possibly see guys not taking tires. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. They may opt to keep the old tires on so that they can save some time and maybe get some positions. Well, I don't know, actually. I was going to say we might not see the leaders do that because they'll probably just want to make sure they have good tires, but it's going to be an interesting challenge. Do you want to risk leaving old tires on and maybe gain a couple of spots under fueling and then maybe be slow at the end of the race when your tires are cooked, or do you want to lose those spots and try and get some fresh rubber that maybe you won't have a chance to use if they stay under yellow?
We saw Trace McRae employ that in Season 1 at Daytona, and it almost worked to his advantage. I believe he made up quite a few positions coming back from that. Yeah, you're right. I think we could see some guys gamble on that, and it'll be exciting to watch to see someone come back through the field, especially on a track like this where it's difficult to pass.
That's true, but that's also the type of this is the type of track where that can really play into your advantage, where those fresh tires will actually give you a chance to pass.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. We've got the pace car coming up to turn 8, and it's going to be diving into the pits this time around. Dan Rash leads the field with German Afanador keeping close behind. I'm guessing he doesn't want to lose contact with him. Dan last race tended to have the pace on German, so I have to imagine the German's going to want to use the draft and keep hold on that toe. Well, the pace car pulls in, and they come to the start-finish line, and the green flag falls, and Dan Rash takes off into turn 1. Kevin?
Nice orderly restart from everybody. German is hot on the tail of Dan Rash into turn 1, and looks like we've got some clean action through turn 1. Everybody's staying clean so far as they approach into turn 2.
In the meantime, I'm looking back at the ST class. James Stevenson is leading off Arthur Chan with a decent lead, but not completely comfortable. Arthur Chan, in the meantime, has Carl Williamson pretty close behind him. Carl's probably going to want those spots back. He lost the lead earlier. And Elliot Huffman is a little bit ways behind them. In fact, Carl is already looking at the inside of Arthur. I don't think he's got quite enough. Coming side by side into turn 4 is a risky proposition. In fact, Carl stays behind him. They come down single file into Moss Corner. Hard braking into that right-hander of turn 5. Carl closes up, but not quite close enough to do anything. Arthur also closes up on James Stevenson, just clipping the inside curb. Not enough to unsettle the car, and they take off down the back straightaway. In fact, Carl looks like he has a pretty good toe, Kevin.
Yeah, I think they got helped a little bit by the slow Mustangs in front of them, and now we're going to see a little bit of action as Carl and Arthur are side by side on the back straight.
Yes, Arthur has track position in this first turn, but like we said, it is possible to pass around the outside using that next corner. Can Carl do it? He's falling back some. In fact, he's falling back into line. I'm guessing he doesn't want to try such a risky maneuver this early on. This is more of a late race dive sort of thing. And he kind of slides it around turn 9 there. But single file as they come back up through the field. How are they looking up at the top in GS, Kevin?
A little bit of the same. Dan Rash has got about a 1 second lead over German right now, and I think he's just going to try and put his nose down and see if he can't break the draft on German before they get to the back straight. If he can do that, then he can sit pretty until the next caution comes out.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking down, and Alexis Molina is currently in third. He's got J.D. Baumgartner and Scott Bersher and Dujan Boldrin all behind them in the line. So there could be some action down there. They're heading through Moss Corner right now, up towards the back stretch.
And we have another yellow flag.
Ah, that's unfortunate. Looks like it's a turn 1 issue. Let's see if we can... I'm not finding it currently. Kevin, can you see?
Yeah, it looks like we had Jeffrey Sharp in the Mustang go to the inside of the number 1349 Motorsports ST car into turn 1 and spin them both around.
Jeffrey's not been having a good day. We've seen him off a couple of times, and it's unfortunate because I actually really love his paint job, I have to admit.
Well, I think we can all appreciate some Milwaukee power tools.
Very old school, very 80s, and being an 80s child myself, I have an appreciation for that. Well, we're on another caution. I'm looking to see if we've got anybody else available for interview, but I'm not seeing it. Dexter Castro's waiting in the wings, but I'm pretty sure he is still out there, although maybe we could drag him in since it's caution. Let's see where he is currently.
Well, he was the driver that was spun by Jeffrey, so he might be a little hot under the collar right now.
Oh, Let me see if he's still out on the track. Yeah, he's still out there. What do you think? Should we bring him in? Hopefully he won't swear on air.
Sounds good to me. Let's see if he's around.
Dexter, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Dexter, it looks like you were caught up in that last incident now that we're under caution. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened?
I had to check up for Tim in front of me, and the Mustangs behind us got a run. First Mustang made it through no problem. Second Mustang decided to stick his nose in there on us. Kinda didn't like that, but just racing incident, I'd say.
It's good to hear you can at least accept that. We noticed that you were up to about, I believe, like 4th position at one point. You were having a good race before that. Do you think you can make it up?
I think I can. We'll see how much damage I can get repaired.
Yeah, we're seeing a bit of a swipe on your right side there. Hopefully, has your steering damaged at all? I mean, hopefully not.
It doesn't feel it. I can't quite tell though. It might be slightly, but hopefully it doesn't affect my top end.
Yeah, that can definitely hurt you on that back straightaway. Well, we're hoping we can see you back up towards the front. You had a good race earlier today. Let's hope for another one.
Yep, thank you.
Well, he was relatively calm. He sounds slightly irritated, though.
Yeah, it's a tough break there. He's probably felt that he should have been able to keep into turn 1 without the Mustang coming in, and instead they went too wide in a 1 wide corner. And Dan Rash is in pit lane, and he's going to top off on fuel right now.
So it looks like pit stops are finally coming into play now that we're about 30 minutes in, so you called it just about right there. I believe I just saw him take tires. Yes, he is taking tires. So that is his decision. We'll see what everyone else does once they come into pit. There is one other person. Who is that?
J.D. Baumgartner is the only other Mustang that hit pit lane.
This could be interesting. See if they jump anyone, if we get any more cautions and people pit, or alternately, you know, this could play to their advantage if we don't get any more cautions. But, you know, going back to Dexter and the Mustang coming into him, I think that's just simply the nature of multi-class racing. It's very give and take. You have to play patient. You have to keep an eye on your mirrors and try and tell when someone's going to make a move, even if you don't want them to.
Yeah, you have to have more eyes in your head than you got room for, and that can be a challenging effort at times. And unfortunately, we kind of saw a bad consequence of that. Hopefully, everybody is able to rejoin the race, and you know, we can see them out there running some more.
Well, we're going to take a really short break here, and then we'll come back before the caution is over and take you back to the green flag. German Fanador currently leads the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series in the ST or GS class. James Stevenson leads in the ST class. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is Kevin Browne. We're currently getting ready to come back from caution. We're on caution number 3, I believe. German Afanador is currently leading the field in the GS class, and James Stevenson is leading the ST class. The pace car is actually just getting ready to pull off, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. It's around the final turn. It's into pit lane, and German Afanador is going to lead the field away onto the main straight.
He's inherited the lead after Dan Rash has taken a pit, so we're going to see how that plays out strategy-wise. He's currently got Alexis Molina, who's moved his way up in a second, and Scott Bersher in third.
Everybody's clean through turn 1, which is good to see, and into turn 2. Let's see if they can stay clean again.
Meanwhile, James Stevenson is leading away Arthur Chan and Carl Williamson. They are 1, 2, 3, all in a line. Not close enough for anybody to make a move right now. William Randleman is in 4th, and he looks a little slow off of turn 3. In fact, Philip Moore takes a brave move into turn 4 there. And he's got track position coming out, but not into the next corner. They could be going side by side into turn 4. I'm sorry, they were in turn 3 before. William Randleman, though, takes the position as Philip Moore backs out, but now he's got Alex Bale on him into the hard braking of turn 5. That double apex hairpin. In fact, there are 4 cars. Christopher Thompson is now amongst that train, so they're getting all backed up. Down the back straightaway they head with the tow to help them. Kevin?
Yeah, I'm keeping a close eye on Dan Rash and J.D. Baumgartner here, who, after their pit stop, were the only cars to take their pit stop, and they are at the back of the ST field trying to move their way through a whole bunch of traffic, and there's kind of cars everywhere on the back straight right at this moment.
Yeah, in fact, I'm looking, and Steve Browne is heading up into that group that I was talking about earlier. He I believe he had a bit of an off before. He's usually a top contender, but he's slipped backwards, and he is also fighting through the field. This could come into play into this battle of 4 ST cars. See if he's patient or if he starts to try and barge his way through. He gets through 1. He's got Alex Bayo next as they come into turn 1. Kevin?
Yeah, and still keeping an eye on Dan Rash. He's able to pick off Jeffrey Sharp there, and now he's looking for more ST cars. The battle of Ed Verras and Tom Eklund right behind Christopher Thompson.
Oh, and unfortunately, an ST car goes off to let Dan Rash by. I'm checking back. That is Ed Voris. Oh, unfortunately, he actually slams the tires there, but he keeps it going. We should not see a caution for that, fingers crossed, but he goes way to the back.
Yeah, I'm sure Dan appreciated the room, but I don't think Ed needed to give Dan Rash quite that much room.
Yeah, you know, let's, I'm hopping back up to Dan here, and he's continuing to fight his way through. He's got Tom Eklund, but they're on the back straightaway, so this should be a pretty easy deal for them. He goes on by, onto Christopher Thompson, and then Philip Moore. He should clear both of these cars easily. But now he's got Alex Baleo coming up towards the back of the straight.
I'm sorry to break in, but it looks like Carl Williamson's going to go to the outside of Arthur Chan into turn 8, and he may actually have him this time around.
In fact, you're right. It's a done deal there. Carl Williamson, the brave move early on, and actually Arthur Chan takes the opportunity to hop into the pits.
I'm not sure why he's pitting under green. That doesn't seem right to me. Something must be wrong with this car.
Yeah, it's very odd. If he's trying to take advantage of another caution that he expects, it's very unusual. It's very, very risky, although it's not unheard of. Yellows do breed yellows, Kevin.
That may be the only thing he's banking on. I would be a little concerned, though, that he's not going to have the benefit of any drafting partners to run at a faster pace. Let's see if this works out for him.
Well, let's head back up to the front of the ST field because James Stevenson currently has Carl Williamson behind him. He's kind of gaining on him as they head into the hairpin, but I don't think he's going to try anything. It'd be pretty foolish if he does. Nope, they're just going 1-2, but Carl Williamson does close up. He's going to have the draft once again as they head down that back straightaway. They've got a Mustang, and it looks like that's Steve Browne who's going to split them, going right and then right between the two of them, but it's no trouble.
Good heads-up driving by all three involved there. Looks like Carl didn't get too much advantage in the draft there, so James Stevenson should be able to lead him into off the back straight.
It's still a battle, though, although we are only about 39 minutes into this thing. So there's still a fair bit to go. They're not even halfway through. In fact, Carl's closed up quite a bit, it looks, in these last few corners. He might be faster through them. He is right on top of James Stevenson's bumper. He might try to make a move, but it's not really a passing turn into turn 1, Kevin.
Yeah, that's a tough place to pass, and last lap James Stevenson was a little faster through this section of corners right here. Let's see if Carl Williamson can stay with him and make a move at the end of the back straight, where he appears to be very fast in that 8, 9, 10 complex.
Unusually, James Stevenson went defensive into 2. Turn 2 is very, very risky to try and pass through. In fact, you could use that to describe most of the corners. Woo, Carl almost gets into the back of James as he closes under turn 3. They're heading into the downhill, which is the left-hand turn 4, as they come towards the hairpin, Kevin.
Yeah, wondering if James Stevenson might be dealing with some handling imbalance right now, and that's forcing him to adjust his line. That would certainly explain why Carl Williamson seems to have the advantage right now.
Yeah, Carl seems like I think that's a great observation, because Carl seems to close up under the corners, so or at least about mid-corner, I would say. Not quite always under braking, but definitely in the corners. He can't exactly adjust a wing, but the two of them actually have Dan Rash closing up very fast. He dives into the inside, and he should be clear by this turn 8.
Yeah, he made it right through. I think that James and Carl may have lifted a little bit to help him get through, not want to hold up what's clearly one of the faster cars on track right now, even though they're having their own little battle at the very front of their class.
I think it's pretty obvious that Carl is definitely faster through that final sequence. He did it in the exact same fashion. We're seeing some other MX-5s pits as we go by the front straightaway. I didn't quite catch who it was, but it could just be that this is the proper window for the MX-5s.
That's true. It may have been their fuel window opening up, and just go ahead and get it done and bank on some cautions coming out. So let's see. We'll keep an eye out, see if we can catch anybody else pitting.
You know, I wouldn't... I'm being corrected that is ST, not the MX-5 class. I apologize, mostly to Wes. Yeah, you know, I think it's fair for them to be risking that there will be another caution. I think it would be unusual if we managed to get through this race without another, although it has happened that we've had a bunch at the start and then none throughout the rest. But, you know, as a former ST driver, I can understand what they're trying to do there, because you're right in that if you just try and pit as early as you can, and if that caution just was a little too soon, then you could still come out ahead, even if everybody else gets a caution, because you've got your pit done and dusted. You'll catch up through that yellow anyways. So no matter what, you could be sitting pretty, because even if there isn't a yellow, everybody else is then going to have to pit under green too.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we're seeing that it's starting to work out for Dan Rash. He's now at the end of the GS field, and he's actually moved up in front of Josh Kramer and at least one other Mustang. So he's got nothing between him and the front but other Mustangs. So that may have helped him out pretty well, especially when another yellow comes out.
You know, and honestly, if we go for green, like I was just saying, he could be sitting very, very pretty, because right now he's only 22 seconds behind German. So even if German pits under green, Dan could still inherit the lead.
Right, and I think our bogey time for pit lane is about 35 seconds, so that may help him out really well.
Some very smart racing from Dan Rash there, which we wouldn't expect anything less from one of the top drivers in this league. Well, I'm going to hop up to the front here because I see that German and Alexis are actually very, very close. They're heading towards the front straightaway right now. In fact, last time by, German and Alexis were less than half a second apart. Alexis isn't quite threatening, but he's keeping the pressure on German. Definitely the pressure there to not make mistakes right now in this race, because we're getting to be a little farther in. You're not going to have as much time to make up for those crucial offs and spins. It looks like we might have lost Kevin Browne here, so I could be on my own for a second. We'll try and keep you updated on our technical issues and get Kevin back in here. Well, as I said, we're watching German Afanador lead the GS class with Alexis Molina close behind in second. Jules-Jean Boldrin is a little bit farther down, about 4 seconds back in third place. Jules-Jean is in third. Scott Bersher is in fourth. Arthur Hermont is in fifth, and Russell Clayson is in sixth. Now this will be interesting between Russell and Arthur. From what I understand, Russell is not too fond of Arthur. And in fact, Russell has got Eric Smith behind him, I think. Looking at Russell right now, he seems to be putting a move on Arthur. He's got the inside heading into turn 8. Let's see if Arthur tries to hold on to it. Nope, he just slots in right behind him. Nice clean pass from Cannonball Clayson. And currently, we've got Arthur possibly under threat from Mr. Eric Smith. Smith was very, very fast. He qualified very high up, but he's made some early mistakes. And it seems we've got Kevin back. Welcome back, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry about that. Apparently I was having my own mechanical issues, if you will.
Well, I'm glad to have you back. My voice was starting to get a little tired there.
Well, it looks like we're watching a nice little battle in the GS class here in the, what is this, 5th through 8th or so. This is a nice little battle they got going on.
I was just speaking a little bit before how we've got Cannonball Clayson and his best friend Arthur Hermont, who, from what we understood from talking to him, he's not totally happy with some of the moves that Hermont has made.
Well, they're both definitely aggressive drivers, and will take any opening you get. So when you get a couple of aggressive drivers next to each other, sometimes they get a little upset at each other. But looks like they're racing clean right now, so maybe they're extending each other a little respect, I hope.
Let's hope so. Cannonball has earned his name, but not through reckless driving. I have to say, we saw last week that he's very, very formidable when in a pack. I'm getting word that we have some cars off in ST. Stefan Overgaard, I'm going to try and bring him up here and see how he's doing.
I think that may also have been Carl. No, excuse me.
Stefan is currently 9th in his class. He's following behind Tom Eckline, but he's not very close. He's behind a bit of a pack of cars. Stefan is one of the faster drivers. In fact, he's won a few races. So he must have had some trouble this race to be so far down. I did not expect him to be this far down in the field.
Yeah, I think he just got caught out with some traffic and kind of got shuffled to the back and just hasn't been able to get a clean race going. Fortunately, he was able to rejoin after going off in turn 2, which is a very lucky thing for him.
Well, up in front of him, I see Patrick Gallagher had to defend from Elliot Huffman. That's a nice little pack of ST cars that are really, really going at each other's chops right now. In fact, Patrick is on top of Tim Brokaw, who is Mr. Painter himself.
And Patrick's making a move on the inside of turn 1, but that's not going to work out, and indeed he has to pull right back behind.
I think he might have been able to make it, but it was probably wiser of him to fight for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a tough place to make a pass, and you're probably better off just looking for another place.
Judging by the little pack they've got, he's probably going to get another opportunity. He takes a little bit of a look into 3, but he's not close enough. They're heading towards the downhill turn 4, and I think he's going to have another opportunity if he's very brave. Let's see if he takes another peek here coming into Moss Corner. Nope, he stays in line. They brake hard, come up the hill, around the double apex, and down to the backstretch. He's going to have the advantage of the draft coming down here.
Yeah, he absolutely got a much better exit out of Moss, so he should have a nice speed and draft advantage over Tim Brokaw. Let's see if he's able to take advantage here.
This is good stuff in the ST class. It's a twisty straightaway, comes up to a little bit of a crest, but not completely blind crest as you see from inside the car. He takes a look on the inside, and he makes it happen. Very nice.
That was good draft work right there. He got a good exit out of Moss, and he was able to carry that extra speed and take advantage of the draft and just turn Tim Brokaw into a sitting duck. Let's see if Tim can do the same thing back.
And we saw a little bit of an off there, but currently Tim is hunting down Patrick Gallagher now. Tim must have some good speed, or either he pitted or something, because he's making short work of a lot of these guys. He takes a look on the inside of turn 2. He's being incredibly gutsy here, and he's going to get another opportunity as he gets a very good exit out of 2 into 3. This is a passing zone if you hit it right, and Tim does. They go side by side, though. They came a little bit close. Tim doesn't have the position, and he tries to cut off Patrick Gallagher. That he almost runs into him. He's on the outside into 4. They're side by side, but Patrick gives up the ghost, thinks better of it. Well, we've been focusing on ST for a bit, so let's take a look at the GS class. German Fanador is still leading, and he's still got Alexis on his tail. German seems to have been holding his constituency quite well, or constitution quite well. I'm sorry if I'm totally botching the English language here, but he's handling pressure well is what I'm trying to say. Alexis is only 3/10 behind him last time at the line. The next guy down, Scott Bersher, is a whole 8 seconds back. So they're kind of by themselves at this point, Kevin.
Yeah, this has worked out really well for them. They've stuck in each other's draft and have managed to get a nice lead over Scott Bersher and Russell Clayson, who seem to be mixing it up about 8 seconds back. So this is working to their advantage, and if there aren't any more yellow flags, they're going to be sitting quite pretty, and this may work out real well for them right now.
Speculation time, Kevin. Do you think Alexis is just kind of sitting back and waiting? Do you think he's got the pace, or do you think he's just holding on to that draft?
Well, if he's got that draft, that's going to help him stay a little more conservative through the rest of the track so that he doesn't have to burn up his front tires. So he's kind of sitting in the catbird seat. If he doesn't have to use up his car as aggressively as German does, then this is definitely, the advantage is all his.
Yeah, with the high-speed corners around this track, I don't doubt that we'll see some guys maybe try to play dead here and just hold on to their tires and wait for the end when they can really zip off against the guys who had burned them all up, as you said. Alexis continues to just hold position. So this is sort of a pressure cooker right now, but nothing really happening besides Alexis just keeping German in check. Well, I'm hearing word that Eric Smith has just taken 6th position, so he's trying to make his way back up the field after having some problems early on in the race. I know we spoke to him a little bit before off air, and he said one of his concerns was that he just wanted to make it to the end of this thing. So it sounds like his fears were valid.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think Eric's probably, and we've got another yellow flag out. So, so much for German and Alexis's lead.
It's on the front straightaway.
It's an ST car.
It looks like it's Christopher Thompson. Let's see if we can pull a replay. And we're going to replay right now. In fact, Christopher got into, who is that? Tim Brokaw. Oh, unfortunate. That is real unfortunate. Tim had been running a very good race there and very aggressive, but I think he was being pretty clean about it. So sad to see that that didn't quite work out for him. Christopher just kind of got into the right rear of him.
Yeah.
Well, the pace car is picking up the field here, and I'm looking at German Afanador currently leading everyone, and he is in the GS class. James Stevenson, on the other hand, is leading the ST class, but he's got Carl Williamson close behind. Of course, we're under caution, so everyone's going to close up. But when the restart is there, James and Carl are going to have each other to deal with.
Absolutely, but I do think that since we're now about 55 minutes into the race, more than halfway, I expect we'll see pit stops from everybody this time around.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if any of the ST cars that haven't pitted don't come in at this point. It'd be foolish not to. We've had a bit of green flag racing. I think everybody's kind of started to get into their rhythm and figure out how to keep out of everybody's way. So we're going to take a short break here as we're under caution. Like we said, James Stevenson is leading the ST class. German Afanador is leading the GS class. We are 30 laps in, about 54 minutes into the race, 55 minutes or so. We will come back after this break. Welcome back to the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is Kevin Browne. We've also got Elliot Huffman on the line, who's currently in third, actually. Elliot, can you hear us?
10-4, I got you.
Elliot, you've had a bit of an eventful race. We've seen you make some gutsy moves. What's your impressions been so far? Is it pretty chaotic out there?
The front's been pretty good. Back in the late teens, it's been a little chaotic, yeah.
We didn't notice that you had gotten up this far. I'm guessing it was through pit stops. Did you shuffle through that way, or did you make this up on pace?
Little of A, little of B. I actually pitted during the 30-minute caution at the 30-minute mark.
So you banked on an early strategy.
If it went green the whole way, I think I could just barely make it. I'm pretty sure I can make it now with this caution.
Do you think we're going to have any more?
At the rate things have been going, I'm sure one or two.
All right. Well, here's hoping it stays green so that we get an exciting rest of the race. Thanks for talking to us for a second.
Thank you.
That was Elliot Huffman, as we said, who is currently sitting third in the ST class. He's done pretty well this day, I'd have to say, Kevin.
Yeah, he's had himself a nice little run, and clearly his strategy is really kind of pulled himself towards the front. So that's worked out well for him so far.
He's in the thick of a few cars of different class. In fact, he's got Alina Gomez behind him, it looks like, and another Mustang who I can't make out. So when it goes green, he's going to have some traffic to deal with. Let's see how he's able to take care of that.
Well, what we do know is this strategy has worked out quite well for Dan Rash. He is currently sitting in position 1, and it's somehow has worked out very well for Steve Browne and David Waters, who are second and third, with J.D. Baumgartner, our other early GS pit stop car, is in 4th, before we have the ST leading William Randleman, who has not had a stop yet. So we'll see how this works out for him.
Now, I think we said this before, but I'd be very shocked about William. I'm not sure if he just forgot about pit stops or what, because this is getting to be pretty late in this race, and I don't know how much longer he can go.
It's definitely an interesting strategy. It's probably not what I would have done, so we'll have to see if this works for him or not. He's definitely in the midst of a whole bunch of Mustangs, so this is it's going to be an interesting restart for him.
You know, I almost wonder if he was utilizing the wave around, although I guess he probably wouldn't be in the lead if that were the case. But, you know, it could be part of it that maybe he was just staying out so that he could get a wave around because he was far enough down or something. But actually, you know what? I don't think that is the case at all, because I believe he was in about 4th or so place before when we had watched him.
Yeah, I think he was fairly high up, so this... Yeah, he would not have benefited from a wave around.
All right, well, we're going to run down the standings real quick. The lights on the pace car are out, so we're going to go back to green real soon. In GS class, Dan Rash is currently leading, as he has for most of the race. Steve Browne is in 2nd, Dave Waters in 3rd, J.D. Baumgartner in 4th, and German Afanador in 5th. In ST class, we have William R. Randleman in the lead, Stefan Overgaard in 2nd, Elliot Huffman in 3rd, Carl Williamson in 4th, and James Stevenson in 5th. Well, they are just about to take the green. The pace car is heading into the pit now, and Dan Rash leads them around that final corner up to that short front straightaway. Green flag drops, and off they go. Steve Browne is in close pursuit with David Waters just behind them in 3rd. Into turn 1. Single file they go. Around down the short chute into turn 2, Kevin.
Yeah, there's a little bit of action going as these GS drivers try to get around William Randleman, the lead ST car, and it seems to be going okay, although he's side by side with, I believe, Russell Clayson into turn 2. So that was a little more excitement that these guys needed right here on this restart.
Yeah, I'm watching, and whoa, we're too wide again. In fact, William has Dujon Boldrin beside him, and they touch. They're off the track. They're into the tires. That is probably race-ending damage for these guys. If not, they're going way, way down the field as the entire pack passes them by. I don't see a caution flag yet, so it looks like they are going to be very unlucky in this. I think that, unfortunately, was William going wide. I think he was getting a little antsy, probably getting a little overwhelmed with all those cars.
Yeah, that's an aggressive move right there by both drivers. I think probably some calm heads should have prevailed, and unfortunately, it may have ended at least one race.
That's really unfortunate for Dualjan because he was doing pretty good. He was at least in the top 10 for pretty much most of this race, I think. Well, I'm looking back up towards the top. Dan Rash is still leading Steve Browne, who's dropped off a little bit, but Dan's got some lap traffic. He's got Global Sim Racing Channel's very own Richard Losper, so he's going to have to deal with him soon.
Yeah, Richard's not had the best of races, and he's currently sitting laps down. So I don't think he will hold up this pack of the lead GS cars for very long. I expect he'll just get off the line and let them drive by.
As he does so with Dan Rash, they're heading into turn 4, which is very fast. I'm not sure. In fact, yeah, he's going to hold up Steve Browne a bit, so this is going to give Dan even more breathing room. David Waters, in the meantime, will have a chance to catch up a bit, but he's got quite a pack behind him, I'm looking. J.D. Baumgartner, Team 49's highest representative currently, is in 4th, and he's hunting down David right now, from what I see.
Yeah, and I suspect that JD's going to make a move here real quick. I think he's got a little bit more speed than David does right now, and I think he feels like he should be up there with Dan Rash, so I expect that to be dealt with quickly.
JD's a very cool customer. Behind them, though, I'm seeing that Eric Smith is trying to make a look on the inside of German Afanador, but he just doesn't have the position to make that happen, so he slots back in. They've got 4 cars in a line. In fact, they've got Scott Bersher and Cannonball Clayson closing up behind them, too, so there is definitely a truly train starting to develop here.
Yeah, these guys are going to have to stay calm. It's getting towards the end of the race, and they're going to be wanting to make any move they can, but it's going to be pretty easy to finish each other's race as Russell Clayson takes a look on, Jordan Afanador was taking a look on the inside of J.D. Baumgartner into turn 2, but fortunately he thought better of that one.
Yeah, David is going to have to deal with some serious pressure here with all these cars he's got behind him. In fact, JD has to get off of it, it looks like, and German is going to get another look. Let's see if JD goes defensive. He does not. German has to lift off, which gets Eric up on top of German now. This train is definitely really pushing the buttons of a lot of these guys. I think they're probably sweating and they're wanting to get out of this situation.
Yeah, certainly. I'm sure that each one of them wants to get clear of the car around them so that they might be able to bust out of this little pack and drive around, as we see J.D. Baumgartner's on the inside of David Waters, or excuse me, to the left of David Waters on the back straight. Let's see if he can make a move into turn 8.
In fact, they're looking at possible 3 wide, but I don't think that's going to happen. German wisely backs out of it, but now we're down to 2 wide. JD's got the position. David gives up the ghost and brakes and lets German in. Now Eric wants a piece of it as he's got the inside of the next turn, but he's not close enough. David's got the position, but he's lost 2 of them in the process.
Yeah, and we had a big tank slapper from Scott Bersher back there who was able to keep it in line. And then German Afanador is looking on the inside of J.D. Baumgartner. And to 1, as Baumgartner gets loose, he's almost runs wide on the outside of 1. Looks like Afanador might have this. No, J.D. Baumgartner stays in the position for turn 2.
It is all going on right now. There's too much to pay attention to because in the meantime, Eric had made a great move on the inside of turn 1. We keep saying that's not a passing zone, but he made it one.
Wow, yeah, I did not catch that. So that's clearly a great move, but this has allowed Dan Rash and Steve Browne a chance to move forward a little bit as J.D. Baumgartner comes right down on the nose of Afanador into turn 4 before they hit Moss.
It is take no prisoners time, and we still have, about 20 minutes left to go in this thing? These guys are picking up pretty early. I definitely think we're going to see another caution before it's all said and done. Eric is currently on the back of German Afanador. He's going to get another go. German staying defensive, in fact, very defensive. He is all the way to the grass. Eric has to go out to the outside, which is not necessarily a bad position. See if he has the speed. He does not. He loses it, so he slots back in right behind German.
Yeah, these guys are pushing real hard here with still a good chunk of the race left.
I think we're seeing some risky but very, very calculated moves. It's just incredibly aggressive driving. I'm wondering where Russell is in all this, because he's usually Mr. Aggressive himself. In fact, I'm looking back and he's just behind this pack. I think if they continue to fight, we're going to see him catch up to them. Whoa, we've got some bumping going on into 2 as German hits the back of JD, which allows Eric to get by German, and somehow they all 3 stay on the track. Russell is now closed up on them, and Russell gets by Eric Smith. Like I said, he was bound to catch up with him at some point. Somehow, in all of this, even though he got tapped in turn 2, which is certain to mean an off, JD held on to that. I don't know how he did that.
That was some fantastic driving by J.D. Baumgartner to keep control of that car in turn 2. There's, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know how he did that. That's great skill, but unfortunately, back of his car and the front of German Afanadors are not in great shape right now.
I think it's worth mentioning, you know, this is actually for 3rd position, so this is for a podium. JD is currently in the 3rd position right now, so I guess there's reason that these guys are fighting so hard. Maybe they just want to talk to us nice folks in the booth.
That's the glory that they're looking for sure.
Well, we spent a lot of time on GS, and hopefully things have settled down a little bit. I'm looking back at Elliot Huffman. He is currently in front of Stefan Overgaard, but it's not for long. In fact, we've got a pass for the lead developing in ST class. Stefan Overgaard is on the outside as they head into turn 8. He could make a pass around here. He backs off a little bit, though. He thinks better and gets into line, but there's a bit of a wobble from... Whoa, and I think they had some contact there. Elliot Huffman had a bit of a wobble, and Stefan, I think, got into the back of him, which sends Stefan a little bit farther back. He's lost a bit of time. Hopefully he didn't damage his car too much with that touch, but I wouldn't be surprised if Stefan has got the pace to try and get around Elliot here.
He may, but I think if I were either one of these drivers, I might just try and team up and get a draft train going, because they're only 3 seconds in front of James Stevenson, and mixing it up too much may allow him to catch up with them, and then who knows what will happen.
Stevenson is definitely known as Mr. Speedy himself around this league. Like I said, he's a former champion, so he is definitely not going to sit around and let them dawdle as he takes 3rd. He's going to want that 1st position.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's got his own little gap in front of Carl Williamson, so you know he's going to be doing everything he can to catch up with the 2 cars in front of him, if only for the draft aid.
It's interesting that he's pulled away from Carl there. They've got Josh Kramer between them, who I believe is one of the backmarker Mustangs. Excuse me. And I think that could have maybe slowed Carl up, because usually Carl and James are just about right on top of one another.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I believe that Josh held up Carl a bit while he was moving through, and that's really benefited James Stevenson.
Well, Josh is going to come into play once again, it looks like, because the leaders were side by side down the back straightaway again, but Stefan backs out of it again. I think you're right in calling it that he's trying to stay patient and not mix it up too much here. In fact, Stevenson is within view of them. He's closed that gap up significantly, I think.
I'd like to go back to the battle for 3rd in GS class, where J.D. Baumgartner has gotten the short end of the stick. He now sits in 6th with German Afanador in the 3rd place spot with his teammate Russell Clayson right behind him, and Club Ohio's Eric Smith is having a nice run in 5th place.
Got to root for that Club Ohio as a Buckeye man myself. Up front, we're seeing German Afanador in 3rd, so he's done a good job, but his front end is not looking very pretty right now. He's been in the wars a bit.
Yeah, and it's going to really hurt him when he's leading a train of cars on the back straight. He's going to be a lot slower than if he was in somebody else's draft.
Absolutely. In fact, he's got Russell Cannonball Clayson right behind him. He's going to have a hell of a time trying to keep him behind him.
Well, I hope these two can play nicely with each other, though, seeing as how they've got the exact same paint colors. That always confuse me.
Are they, in fact, on the same team? I'm afraid I was not aware of that, but it makes sense now.
I do believe they are both part of V Apex Racing.
Very ubiquitous team. I see them all over the place. Well, behind them, Mr. Eric Smith is also catching them, who, let's see, he's in 5th currently. He's made up quite a bit of time since his first early off, so I'd say he's kind of redeemed himself a bit for his mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he's seeing that this is a very competitive race series, and he's getting some fun getting to mix it up with these guys, and he's having a real good run, and I wonder if he thinks he can get that 3rd spot away.
Yeah, I think as he continues to run in this series, you're going to see a much improved Eric Smith. That's one thing that the CESCS does to you as you race in it, is you start to learn that endurance mentality, and you get better and better at your long runs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just kind of taking a look at the top 3 in the ST class, where James Stevenson has caught up with Elliot Huffman and Stefan Overgaard and turned this into a real battle for the lead.
We're seeing things start to turn out exactly like last week. We got 3 cars all by themselves in the ST class, all duking it out. I don't think we're going to be able to see a 3 wide on this one, though, Kevin.
Well, it will be hard to top that finish at Daytona, and 3 wide at Mosport would be definitely very interesting.
Death wish is what I would call it.
For sure. They have a nice little train going here, and I bet you James Stevenson wants these guys to just play nice here so that they might be able to pull away from Carl Williamson, who's only about 1.5 seconds behind them.
Yeah, you know, we've been watching Stefan a little bit here, and I've noticed that he continues to pull aside on that back straightaway and then get back in line as James gets very close to Stefan as he gets out of shape through turn 10. Out of turn 11, they get it back under control, and things go back to normal. That was a little bit hairy, though. But I was going to say, Stefan continues to pull out on that back straightaway, and James is a very, very smart driver. He's not just quick and muscly and fast around that way. He knows how to play the strategy game. I'm willing to bet you he's going to kind of hang back, wait for them to get tussled up, and then pounce when he's got a chance of them slowing each other down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. James is a real heads-up driver, real smart driver, and you know that those gears are clicking in his head as he's figuring out how to make this work for him.
Real quick, let's go through where the leaderboard is currently. Dan Rash is leading the GS class. Steve Browne is in 2nd. German Afanador in 3rd. Russell Clayson in 4th. And Eric Smith in 5th. Meanwhile, in the ST class, Elliot Huffman is still holding on to a very gutsy 1st place. Stefan Overgaard is hounding him in 2nd. James Stevenson is in 3rd. A little bit farther down, we've got Carl Williamson and then Alex Balogh.
Stefan Overgaard got a fantastic run out of Moss and got the better run over Elliot Huffman, and he's pulled alongside, and I think he's taken over the lead on the back straight as James Stevenson's hooked up with him and is trying to get around Elliot as well.
James is absolutely on top of the tailpipe of Stefan. Stefan has got the outside, but that's going to become the inside very soon. In fact, he could have it as long as he keeps his braking right. He brakes a little bit too much and he loses his spot. James Stevenson heads around the outside of Overgaard and takes the 2nd position through the final turn. Wow, that was just absolutely spot on driving from James. He saw an opening and just did not hesitate.
No, he played that about as well as anyone can play a pass maneuver, and now he's sitting well looking at Elliot Huffman and getting him in his sights.
I have to imagine it's not long before he can overtake Elliot. Elliot's kind of been playing the waiting game here, just trying to hold on, trying to be patient, be defensive, not do anything too crazy. And, you know, that's what you got to do when you're up front. You can't try and start pushing yourself too hard. That's when you start making mistakes. When you outbrake yourself, you got to hit your marks. You got to make sure you're doing what you always do.
Absolutely, and we see the benefits of the draft as the leaders. Even though they were fighting amongst themselves and going too wide, they now have a 2-second lead over Carl Williamson, who's having to do all his work all by himself. And yet we're seeing James Stevenson side by side on the back straight. He wants that lead, and he wants it now.
Wow, you know, James is really proving his worth in this series. I could see that him gain even before they were a few meters out of that turn exit. He just looks so much more on it than Elliot. He's on the outside as they head into turn 8. Yes, turn 8, I'm sorry. And he's got track position. Could we see a repeat, though? Could he break a little too early? Is he better than Stefan? In fact, yes, he is, but they touch. And he almost goes off. He's into the pit entrance, but he holds on to the position. Unbelievable. James is just a master of that MX-5 wheel, as even though they touched, he takes the lead. Elliott is still on top of him. He's not going to give up soon. In fact, Carl Williamson is caught up in all of this, so we've got a top 4 battle.
And Carl Williamson was definitely trying to make a move on Stefan Overgaard as quickly as he could. That battle in the back section really helped Carl out. Now you know he wants to get up front as well.
He's looking for that podium. In fact, he's going to try and take it right now. He moves to the inside of Stefan. I don't think Stefan's going to have an answer as he starts to lose ground on the exit. In fact, it should be easy pickings at this point unless Stefan wants to play brave. In fact, he slots right back behind Carl into turn 4. So Carl has moved up into the podium position.
And while we were watching that fantastic excitement, Russell Clayson dropped off, and Eric Smith managed to get around in front of him. So we've got some more position changes for the final podium spot in GS class. German Afanador still holds it, but Eric Smith is right behind him looking for it, while Russell Clayson has dropped off a bit looking for that final podium spot.
Well, I definitely would not doubt Eric Smith if I was in one of those Mustang cars right now, because he is just really ripped through this field since he went to the back early on. You know, I'm willing to bet, unless he makes another mistake, he's got the pace to grab that 3rd position.
I think so, and if nothing else, he's got the benefit of a more aerodynamic car right now, so he can really use that to his advantage on the back straight.
We're currently looking at less than 10 minutes to go, and we are 45 laps into this race. It is a timed race. It is only an hour and a half, about 90 minutes long. We are an hour and 21 or so in right now. I'm watching Eric Smith, and he's actually starting to make a move on German Afanador, Kevin.
Yeah, he's got some speed, and he may actually be able to pull this one off. Let's see how this works on the outside of 8.
We haven't seen too many Mustangs be able to make that one work, though. The ST class has, and Eric just doesn't have the speed around the outside there. I'm curious to know if it's just so much harder around that corner to try and make that outside move.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because you're really kind of threading the needle in the Mustang there. There's a very certain line that will get you through that sequence as quickly as possible, and about a foot off to either side of that line means you're just not going to be able to carry speed through it.
I'm going to hop back to Elliott Huffman, who's got Carl Williamson all over top of him right now. And in fact, Carl's going to try and look to the outside on that same turn, that treacherous fast turn 8. That has caught a few drivers out. And I'm willing to bet you that if Carl can make this happen, he's going to start to work on James Stevenson. In fact, Carl isn't able to make the pass coming into 8. He gets back in behind Elliott Huffman. They've got a little bit of lap traffic, but that car is heading into the pits. Carl is still all over the back of Elliott. And so he's going to have a few more opportunities. In fact, Elliott goes defensive on turn 1. He must feel very, very threatened. Let's see if he does the same going into turn 2. Carl's going to have probably a little bit better exit. In fact, he definitely does. Elliott goes very defensive. See if he can handle the braking into this corner, which is a double apexer. It's hard to go in early. He gets a little out of shape. And in fact, Carl is now on the outside of turn 3 as he gets a very good exit. Can he actually go around the outside of turn 3? That's going to be a tough one. He doesn't have the pace, but he's still outside there. He's still got the position. If he can hold on to it, he'll be on the inside of 4, but he'll be on the outside of 5. They're going to go 2 wide through 4. Stefan Overgaard is there to pick up the pieces if something goes wrong. Into the braking they go. Carl is still side by side. They are still 2 by 2. And wow, Elliott holds on to it, but Carl is going to come back at him on the back straight. They are not done yet, ladies and gentlemen. Stefan is just patiently waiting. I think he's probably salivating at the chance to take over this second position from these two, because something could so easily go wrong. Carl has got the inside as they head down the back straight. In fact, he's got a little bit more speed. Stefan is going to try and follow him through. He's going to try to demote Elliott another position.
And this fight that they have going on has really slowed them up, and it's allowing James Stevenson to get away. This may have clinched the lead for James Stevenson. At what risk to Carl Williamson, Elliot Huffman, and Stefan Overgaard? We have yet to find out.
Boy, Elliot got in there just a little too hot and had to slow down a lot, and then slowed up Stefan Overgaard, but he's held on to the podium position of third place. Carl Williamson has finally sealed the deal after almost a lap-long side-by-side battle. That was intense stuff, Kevin.
That was really fun to watch, and I think James Stevenson was absolutely giggling as he watched it in his mirror, because he now has almost a 3-second lead on second place.
That really played into his hand. Well, Elliot must not be completely void of speed, because he was going to try and make a go at Carl there for a second into turn 3, but he backed off. Now he's got Stefan Overgaard, who's going to try and go side by side into 4. This is the thing that we didn't think we'd see a lot. They get very close down the hill. Stefan is holding on to it. He's trying to stay side by side, but he can't quite break late enough as Elliot takes the position back into the hairpin. They come off of the hairpin into the back straightaway. They've got about 5 minutes left to get this thing settled, and they're going to have a Mustang who's going to slice through them. Kevin, I'm sorry, I've been hogging the mic here through this battle. This is just great stuff.
No, it's okay, but we have a battle up at the front of the GS field where second place Steve Browne has been caught by German Afanador and Eric Smith, and they are running nose to tail right now, and you know, with less than 5 minutes to go, they're going to start getting really eager to make some moves.
It's take no prisoners time. It's time to stop pussyfooting around and really make a pass happen. I'm willing to bet Eric's going to want to do that, because he's basically making up for early sins. He is repenting with his speed right now, and he's got German in his sights, but he's not close enough to make anything happen currently, Kevin.
Yeah, it seems that he's fastest out of Moss, but German's been carrying a lot of speed into turn 8, and that's just, when that situation happens, it's really difficult to make a pass. So we'll see if if Eric Smith can't get a little help from a lap car as he goes off in turn 10 and does manage to regain it and come back in. But there's a lap car in turn 1 that Steve Browne manages to get around just fine. German Afanador is getting held up a little bit, and he's going to take the run. And Eric Smith sitting a little further back. He's going to have to wait until after turn 2.
I don't think you should hold him up too much. Steve
Browne was off.
Steve Browne makes a mistake, and into the tires he goes. I don't think that's race ending. He just kind of glances them. He's continuing on. Oh, but this is... Oh, he's doing exactly what happened to Dan Rash. We're going to go to replay now, and I'm looking to see what happened. He heads into the turn, and I think he's just a little too far off the apex and goes in too hot. And once you're in the grass there, it's curtains.
Yeah, I was talking about threading the needle earlier in the Mustang, and turn 2 is another one of those places where you need to be on the exact line, and unfortunately Steve Browne wasn't, and it looks like that's going to be the end of his podium chances for this race.
Very much so. I'm watching him now, and he's in the tires again. In fact, his car looks like his handling is way screwed up. So, yeah, he's done for. He's going to have to go in and get that repaired unless he really wants to try and stay out here for the next 4 minutes or so, which isn't unheard of, but I wouldn't want to be creeping around the way he is.
And this has definitely helped German Afanador. He's now sitting second, and he's got about almost a second lead over Eric Smith. So this may have solidified the final podium spots for the GS class.
Yeah, German and Eric are probably smiling. I mean, you never want to see, wish ill upon your competitor, though I'm sure some might. But any position you can gain in any way is always appreciated, I'm sure. Well, Carl Williamson isn't quite close enough in the meantime back in ST to really do anything with James Stevenson, who's leading. But behind them, we've got Elliot Huffman still defending from Stefan Overgaard. I take back what I said about Elliot not having the pace. He is doing a magnificent job about retaining this third-place position, knocking on wood. And we'll see if he can hold it off for the last few minutes here.
Yeah, this is the closest battle that we see on track, and these two have been going at it hammer and tongs now for what seems ages. And once again, Stefan Overgaard's looking to the outside on the entry to 8.
I'm sure he feels like he's done that move at least 100 times already. I know it feels like we've seen him try that, And what's unfortunate is he was trying it for the lead earlier at one point, I believe, and now he's just simply trying to salvage a third-place position.
Yeah, he's got to be kicking himself. He keeps thinking that this pass is right there for the taking, and he keeps going backwards in the race order.
You know, if I was him, and the fact that this hasn't worked out so far, I think he needs to mix it up. He really needs to try something he hasn't done before. He's got to surprise him, because at this point, Elliott knows what's coming. He knows exactly where to put the car. He knows where to get on the gas. So it's, you know, he's not doing anything for his chances to keep repeating this move over and over.
I agree with you, but I think that Elliott might have the speed everywhere else on the track to keep Stefan from having a chance.
Well, it's coming down to the final moments here. Dan Rash continues to lead in the GS class, and with a pretty healthy lead. In fact, he's got 15 seconds over German Afandador, if the last time over the line was correct.
Yeah, absolutely, and we missed it, but our third-place GS car, Eric Smith, went off in turn 2, and he's now sitting, I believe, 8th overall.
Ah, man, that's unfortunate. Boy, but I bet Russell's happy because he's been able to make up for some of his mistakes and is now back up to the podium. Trying to see exactly how much time we have left. It looks like less than 30 seconds, so we're actually going to be seeing the white flag here soon if we haven't already.
I believe we should be seeing it this time around. I think we have about 15 seconds left in the race, and Dan Rash is approaching the start-finish, so we absolutely should see it.
You're right. He's coming around that final corner onto the front straightaway. The white flag should be coming out now. Let's watch and see if that's the case.
No, I'm
Yes.
sorry. That was the finish. That was the check flag.
Oh, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Rash wraps it up with a win. In round 2, making up for his mistake in round 1. German Afandador is still coming home in second. Let's see where the rest of them can wind up. Russell Clayson is coming home third, about 7 more seconds behind German.
And in the mix-up, we missed this somehow, but Arthur Chan managed to get in front of Stefan Overgaard for 4th place in the ST class and might still have a chance at Elliott Huffman for the final podium spot.
Boy, it's going to take a lot for him to do that, and what a feather in the cap of Arthur Chan that will be if he can get 2 podiums in one day. He's closing up a lot under braking. Is he going to be able to do what Stefan Overgaard couldn't for lap after lap? That's going to embarrass Stefan if he sees Arthur do it first try.
Well,
Meanwhile,
Arthur's definitely in the draft of Elliott Huffman, and so let's see what happens. I can't believe that he wouldn't make a move here.
Yeah, Elliott's going very defensive. We're going to watch this just for a second, and then we'll hop back to James Stevenson, who's wrapping things up. Arthur's looking on the outside there, and he's holding on to it. He could have it if he brakes late enough. In fact, he does. And Elliott's still got the inside there. He's not giving up. Arthur is still holding on to the outside. It's going to be a drag race to the line. James Stevenson already took home the win. Carl Williamson took second, but for 3rd place, Elliott Huffman clings on by just a hangnail as Arthur Chan takes home 4th place, and Stefan Overgaard finishes it up in 5th.
Well, how about that? 2 rounds in a row, and the podium in ST puts on a side-by-side finish across the wire. Good stuff.
Awesome stuff, and really good fight from Arthur Chan. I apologize to James Stevenson that we didn't switch over to you. You seem to have had it well under control. We're going to have to bring them into the booth here soon and ask them how their race went. That was a pretty good finish there, Kevin.
That was great stuff. I'm glad that the field was able to kind of get themselves sorted out and get some green flag running, because they sure put up some great watching for us.
You're absolutely right. It was slow going at the start there, but in the end it came out pretty well. Well, we've currently got James Stevenson sitting in the ready room. We've got Stefan Overgaard waiting as well. Dan Rash is waiting. Who else do we have from the podiums? While we're waiting for people to hop up to get interviewed in here, the final results for the race, barring any penalties or late results from the marshals, Dan Rash wins in the GS class. German Afandador come home second. Russell Clayson rounds out the podium in third, Arthur Hermont in 4th, Scott Bersher in 5th, JD Baumgardner in 6th. Alita Gomez comes home in a very respectable 7th. Pretty good showing after last week when she had an unfortunate accident. Eric Smith in 8th, Jeffrey Sharp in 9th, Josh Kramer in 10th, and that rounds out the top 10 of our GS. Let's hop over to the ST class. James Stevenson finishes in 1st, Carl Williamson finishes in 2nd, Elliot Huffman takes 3rd for the podium. Arthur Chan just misses out with the 4th place, but a very well-fought 4th place. Stefan Overgaard in 5th, Alex Balau in 6th, Chuck Johnson in 7th, Patrick Gallagher in 8th, Tom Eckline in 9th, and Matthew Reinhold in 10th for the ST class.
There was some great racing there, and that was well done for everybody. I appreciate watching that.
Very much so. We have to thank the field for putting on a great race, and we also have to thank Safecraft Racing, the sponsor of this league, for helping us put on this league. They provide some excellent safety gear for real-life racing. In fact, many real-life teams do use them. They are the sort of status quo. We're going to grab Dan here in a second. Dan, can you hear us?
Yep, loud and clear.
Well, congratulations on your victory. That must be quite satisfying after the missed opportunity at the last round.
Yeah, I wish I could have raced Brian this time. It would have been good to have another battle with him, but we still had a good race here, and glad I didn't make any big mistakes like last time.
Well, this race definitely seemed to kind of work out for you. You surprised us with that early pit stop, but really worked out for you. Were you planning that ahead of time?
No, I just had a spreadsheet going while I was driving and was crunching the numbers as we went. And as soon as we got to a lap where I thought I could stretch it out, I jumped in as soon as I could. I knew I was risking getting caught up in lap cars and ST cars if I was going to pit early, but I also knew that would be how would you say it? It'd give me a lot of opportunity later to be ahead of the pack, especially if there was a yellow like there was. And if there wasn't a yellow, I still would have been ahead of everybody. I would have just had to save a lot of fuel. But I think that with the strategy that I took, I would have been able to pull that off. But in the end, there was a yellow, so I ended up not having to save anything.
Yeah, how did you think you kind of had that in your hands when it sorted out and you were at the lead and you had Steve Browne and David Waters who somehow managed to sneak up to the podium?
Oh, you mean after the last restart?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was pretty comfortable with my pace. The Free Domain radio car was running really fast today, especially after this morning's practice when we made a few setup tweaks and it just started melting away at the lap times. That was the only way I was able to get that 30.9 in qualifying. I wasn't coming anywhere near that yesterday, but a few tire pressure tweaks and some camber tweaks really made all the difference.
Well, that was a fantastic job. Anybody else you want to give a shout out to?
I just want to thank Free Domain Radio for sponsoring my car, and looking forward to racing with Brian again next week. And Russell Clayson, thanks a lot for the practice this morning. We had a lot of two-wide driving that really prepared me for overtakes and being overtaked here.
All right, Dan, thanks much, and we look forward to seeing you at Barber Motorsports Park.
Thanks, and I look forward to watching the broadcast. You guys are looking like you're doing a great job, especially with those car overlays. I'm really excited to see how those turned out.
All right, well, let's drag the ST leader in since we just talked to the GS leader. James, can you hear us?
Sure can.
Congratulations on your first win of the season. You had an interesting time getting there. In fact, you had to make some really gutsy passes towards the end. Did you think you could overtake the guys, or were you wary of getting into trouble so late in the game?
Well, to be honest, I've done a fair bit of racing around Mosport before, so I was confident that I had a few interesting passes that they weren't expecting, and they managed to pull off.
I have to admit, we were incredibly impressed when you came together with a little bit of contact in, I think it was turn 9 with, I want to say it was Elliot Huffman towards the end, was it?
Yeah, it was Elliot.
That was some incredible car control on your part, because I think that was actually the pass for the lead, was it not?
It was. I just couldn't quite get it turned in, and I bumped out into him, and of course he was a little bit further back than me, so it turned my car sideways, but managed to hold on to it and continue on.
Really awesome stuff from your part, and we expect nothing less, because you have shown us time and time again the sort of awesome car control that you wield. Do you have any special shout-outs or sponsors you want to thank?
I don't really have any sponsors or anything like that, but I'd like to say congratulations to Stefan for getting another 4th position. He was looking like a podium for a good while. He had a good pit strategy that got him up there.
Definitely. Thanks for talking to us, and again, congratulations.
Thanks for having me in, guys.
Well, let's see who else. I don't think we have anybody else from the podium yet, but there was mention of Arthur Chan, who gave us quite a bit of excitement. Let's drag him in here. Arthur, can you hear us?
I'm here.
Arthur, it's been a pretty good day for you, I'd say.
Yes and no, I guess. I guess you guys have known me for a while. I'm not terribly emotional, but I have to say that was a pretty angry drive for me at the end. Just from the beginning, everything was going quite well with James and Carl, and James had a good pick on both of us and took the lead, and it was pretty clear I could go quicker than James, so when Carl took over my position, I took the opportunity to dive into the pits. Took my fuel, and after that it was just as much clear track as I could have asked for. And coming around lap 19, the Mustangs were catching up to me, and yellow was thrown, and to my horror, the pace car picked me up instead of the Mustang, so basically I ended up spending an extra slow lap, and that basically threw me right back into the 12th position or so. And after that, it was just basically an angry drive trying to get to the front again.
Ow, we actually didn't catch that, so that's real unfortunate. But man, you made one hell of a drive. We were watching your battle at the very end there, where you're trying to get around Elliot Huffman. I couldn't tell until the final corner how that thing was going to wind up.
I really didn't either. Of course, that was a completely non-racing line, and probably a line I should have practiced a little bit more. I've actually lost other races being in Elliot's position. So maybe a bit more practice on that alternate line would have helped. But no, I was a bit fortunate in the last couple of laps. A few people had some incidents, and I came back. And to my horror, I saw Dan coming up behind me as well. And I knew that thing was on the final lap. I knew that if he passed me, my race would be over, and I wouldn't have a chance to even fight for the 3rd and 4th position. So I think Dan let off quite a bit going in when he saw that we were going into the final white flag. So thanks to Dan for that.
Good stuff all around. Well, trying to think if there's anything else before we switch to someone else. Do you have any sponsors or shout-outs that you want to give?
Yeah, Turn 2 Motorsports has helped out with setups and race logistics quite a bit, and our team is also sponsored by Petrol Data Systems, which produces a software product for autocross.
All right. It looks like thanks for coming and talking to us, Arthur. Also, looks like we've got actually P3 for the ST class waiting in the wings, so we're going to talk to Elliot here. Elliot, can you hear us?
I got you. Yes, I do.
Elliot, that was an incredibly gutsy drive to a podium position. Did you think that you could hold off that train of cars that was hunting you down for so long?
Not all of them. I really wasn't expecting to hold off whoever got first. Carl made a great pass for second afterwards. Sorry to James and Arthur for getting into them, but just great racing.
Yeah, we were commenting on that earlier. It looked incredibly hairy, and you guys both did a great job of holding onto your cars and not getting into the wall. We noticed you pit pretty late, didn't you?
I pitted 30 minutes in.
Oh, so you were actually one of the earlier ones. So
yep, there was 0.25 gallons left in the tank when I parked it.
Well, we had totally missed that, actually, I believe. We saw you stay out later on. We thought that you hadn't pit yet, and we were wondering what in the world was going on. Well called strategy, sir.
Looked down, saw the time, and oh, hey, I think I can make it.
I know exactly how that goes. Well, do you want to give any shout-outs to sponsors or friends or anything?
No sponsors, no friends that are watching this, but shout out to the entire top 5 of the ST class. That was a blast to run with.
It was a blast to watch. You guys gave us some real entertainment. Well, we're also going to talk to, let's see, we've got Andre Trago. Where did Andre finish in the field? Andre, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You seem to have finished 11th, so you didn't have that great of a day. I don't know that we actually caught what happened to you. What sent you down the field?
Well, turn 2, lap 1, I just went off to the side, wound up with some damage, and had about a 8-minute repair in the pits, and that set me a few laps back, so that was pretty much all I needed.
That's real unfortunate, but I can't say it's really too much of a surprise that turn 2 bit someone. We've seen plenty of guys go off on there. In fact, we saw Steve Browne have an off at one point late in the race.
Yeah, I think I got around him there. Maybe gained another position. I'm not sure if that was the case. Maybe he was already a lap behind me, but I still wound up only being 1 lap down. I can't really complain too much about that.
Sort of a damage control race for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks for coming in and talking to us for a second. Hopefully, 2 weeks' time, let's see, we're at Barber. So hopefully Barber goes a little bit better for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I know it's a similar track, so I'll probably take it a little bit more easy there to begin with. We'll hopefully that'll be the ticket that gets me out of the weeds.
Absolutely. Thanks and good luck for the next race. We're going to talk to Stefan Overgaard a bit. Stefan, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear you.
Stefan, we were watching you duke it out with, I believe it was Elliott for most of the race. It looks like you were having a tough time getting by him.
Yeah, no matter what I tried, I just couldn't get past him. At one point, I almost thought I had him at the penultimate corner, but yeah, he closed the door there. And then when James Stevenson came up, he actually gave me a push, and I almost also had that, but then I actually ended up going down to third. So,
were you just unable to make any ground anywhere else in the course? Because it seemed like the only place you were catching him was along that back straightaway.
Yeah, going into Moss corner, he went in much slower than me, so I actually had to slow down a bit, and then I could get a bit better exit out of it, but just wasn't enough.
That's unfortunate, but still 5th place I think is a respectable finish. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, at least during the start of the game I was dodging collisions and wrecks all over, so I dropped down, but after the pit stops, yeah, actually I was surprised I came out so far ahead. I think at one moment I was leading, but not for full lap, so it doesn't count in the points, unfortunately.
Oh, that's also unfortunate. But still, we're looking forward to seeing more from you. You gave us a really good race to watch today.
You're welcome.
I don't believe we have anybody else really that is waiting in the wings to be interviewed. Kevin, what are your thoughts on how today went?
Well, I was a little frustrated with everybody that we couldn't stay green flag for more than a couple of laps. And but once they finally got that sorted out, we got some great green flag racing and a lot of action all the way around, and that was a lot of fun to watch.
I completely agree. I'm with you on the yellows. It seemed like it took a bit, but when it did, boy, did it go, because we saw some incredible battles throughout the field, especially in the top 5 of each class. Well, it's been another great race here at the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series. Again, we want to thank Safecraft Racing for sponsoring this series. They do a lot to help us get this thing going. Also, thank you to Wes Eric, the series organizer, who really puts in a lot of time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears to make each race happen. He unfortunately couldn't be here this week, but we wish you the best, Wes. Hopefully you're watching. We are thinking about you. We're looking forward to having you back at Barber, hopefully. Ultimately, also, I want to thank Giancarlo, our director, and Kevin, my co-commentator. You guys helped make this thing awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Joe. It was a pleasure, and looking forward to some fun at Balogh Motorsports in 2 weeks' time.
Me too. And that race will, as we said, be 2 weeks from now at the same time, starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. And we also have our next broadcast, which is coming less than a week from now, about a week from now. It'll be next Saturday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That'll be the Blondies MX5 World Tour, which is going to be at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I believe that is on the road course there. Well, it's been another great day. We've seen lots of great passing, lots of very intense racing here at Mosport International Raceway. Canada has given us a great spectacle to behold. We look forward to hoping that Alabama will give us the same sort of fun and excitement. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is Kevin Browne. Race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.